Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. In a move that has sent shockwaves throughout the region, Beijing has issued a blunt and unmistakable warning to the Philippines. The message is clear: steer clear of the Taiwan issue, or be prepared to face serious consequences. This warning, delivered with rare directness, underscores the growing tensions simmering across the Taiwan Strait and highlights China's increasing willingness to assert its interests in the region. China's statement comes at a time when the Philippines is drawing closer to the United States, both diplomatically and militarily. The Chinese government has made it clear that any involvement by Manila in the Taiwan question will not be tolerated, and that repercussions could be swift and severe. This stern message coincides with Manila's decision to deepen its security ties with Washington. Recently, the Philippines granted American forces expanded access to several military bases, some of which are strategically located near Taiwan. These bases could potentially serve as launch points for U.S. intervention in the event of a crisis, a scenario that deeply alarms Beijing and raises the stakes for all parties involved. By opening its doors to U.S. troops, the Philippines is shifting from a traditionally neutral neighbor to a potential frontline state in the event of a conflict over Taiwan. This transformation is not lost on China, which views the move as a direct challenge to its regional ambitions and a threat to its national security. The warning from Beijing signals a new, more assertive phase in China's foreign policy. Gone are the days of quiet negotiations and patient diplomacy. Instead, China is now openly drawing red lines and making it clear that it will defend its interests with greater resolve. For Manila, the stakes could not be higher. The government must now carefully balance its long-standing alliance with the United States against the very real risks of antagonizing its powerful neighbor to the north. Every decision carries weight, and the consequences could reverberate far beyond the Philippines' own borders. The Philippines now finds itself in a precarious position, caught between two global superpowers with competing interests. The choices made in Manila will not only shape the country's future, but could also influence the broader security landscape of the Indo-Pacific region. China's warning is not just directed at Manila. It is a message to the entire region, and especially to Washington, that Beijing is prepared to defend its interests and will not hesitate to act if it feels threatened. The era of quiet diplomacy is over. Beijing is now openly and actively shaping its security environment, making it clear that it will not back down in the face of perceived encirclement or interference. The dragon has roared, and the world is watching closely. Regional leaders are now weighing their options, aware that the next moves could determine the future balance of power in Asia. What Manila chooses to do next could reshape not only its own destiny, but also the entire Indo-Pacific balance. The world waits, holding its breath, as the Philippines stands at a historic crossroads. The Philippines sits at the crossroads of the Indo-Pacific, controlling some of the world's most vital shipping lanes. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these waters, making the Philippines a crucial link in global trade. Its location isn't just important for commerce, it's also a strategic choke point for military movement and energy supplies. One of the most significant features is the Luzon Strait, a narrow body of water that separates the Philippines from Taiwan. This strait is just a short distance from Taiwan's southern tip, making it a critical maritime passage for both commercial and military vessels. The northernmost islands of the Philippines, such as Batanes, are less than 200 kilometers from Taiwan. In the event of a regional conflict, these islands would become frontline outposts, offering a strategic vantage point for monitoring and controlling movement between the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. The Luzon Strait acts as a gateway for both Chinese and U.S. naval forces. Whoever controls this passage can influence the flow of military assets, making Philippine territory indispensable in any regional security strategy. The ability to project power through these waters could determine the outcome of a conflict. For Beijing, the prospect of U.S. access to these islands is seen as a direct threat to its ambitions and security. China conducts frequent military exercises in the region to assert its presence and signal its resolve. For Washington, the Philippines is a lifeline, an essential partner for supporting Taiwan and maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific. U.S. forces rely on access to Philippine bases and waters to respond quickly to any crisis in the region. The Philippines cannot simply remain neutral. Its geography alone makes it a key player, whether it wants to be or not. The country's position at the heart of Southeast Asia means that any major power competition will inevitably involve Manila. Control over these northern islands and the Luzon Strait could tip the balance in a Taiwan crisis, giving one side a decisive advantage in both defense and offense. Military planners on all sides recognize the Philippines as a potential game-changer. That's why China is ramping up diplomatic and economic pressure on Manila, urging the Philippines to deny the U.S. a foothold so close to its most sensitive interests. The stakes are high, and every move is closely watched. Today, the Philippines finds itself at the very center of great power competition. Its choices will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific, and possibly the entire world order. Manila has pivoted back to its traditional ally, the United States, after years of warming to China. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement now gives U.S. forces access to more Philippine bases, including those near Taiwan. Joint military exercises have expanded, signaling a stronger deterrent posture. For the Philippines, this alliance is a shield against Chinese coercion and a path to modernizing its military. The shift marks a fundamental change. Manila is prioritizing external defense over internal threats. The calculation is clear: security with the U.S. outweighs the risks of angering China. This realignment is reshaping the region's security landscape. Beijing sees new U.S. bases in the Philippines as a direct threat, especially those near Taiwan. Chinese officials warn that Manila is turning itself into a U.S. staging ground, risking entanglement in a future conflict. Large-scale U.S.-Philippine military drills are viewed by China as rehearsals for war over Taiwan. In response, China deploys its own forces, raising the risk of dangerous standoffs. Beijing's strategy pressures Manila to reconsider, warning that hosting U.S. forces makes the Philippines a target. China's information campaign aims to sow doubt and division within the Philippines. The stakes: Manila's security, autonomy, and its very future. Over 150,000 Filipino workers live in Taiwan, sending vital remittances home. Any conflict would put their lives at risk and create a massive humanitarian crisis. Evacuating so many people from a war zone would be a logistical nightmare for Manila. China has used this vulnerability as leverage, warning that siding with the U.S. endangers Filipino lives. The government must weigh alliance commitments against the immediate safety of its citizens. The plight of these workers complicates every strategic decision. For Manila, the human cost is a sobering reality. The risk to its people is a powerful incentive for caution. China now links the South China Sea disputes with the Taiwan issue, framing both as part of a U.S.-led campaign to contain Beijing. For the Philippines, this means pressure on Taiwan policy could trigger escalation in the West Philippine Sea. Manila's alliance with the U.S. is both a deterrent and a source of Chinese ire. The paradox: defending against China in one arena increases risk in another. Beijing's strategy forces Manila to consider the broader consequences of every move. Regional security is now indivisible. Every decision has ripple effects. China wants to prevent selective cooperation with the U.S., making neutrality nearly impossible. The Philippines faces a complex web of intertwined risks. Every diplomatic step is now a high-stakes calculation. The past year has seen a surge in military posturing and sharp rhetoric over the Philippines and Taiwan. China's large-scale drills around Taiwan are clear warnings to Taipei and its supporters. The U.S. and Philippines have responded with joint patrols and freedom of navigation operations. Each move raises tensions, turning the region into a geopolitical chessboard. China's diplomatic offensive aims to pressure Manila and sway public opinion. Philippine officials defend their right to choose allies, but must constantly reassure both Beijing and Washington. The result: a climate of uncertainty and heightened risk. Every warning and rebuttal adds to the tension. The region is on edge, watching for the next move. For Manila, the risks are immense: security, economic, and humanitarian. U.S. bases make the Philippines a potential target in any Taiwan conflict. China could retaliate economically, cutting trade and investment. Internal divisions could deepen, with some elites favoring closer ties to Beijing. The fate of Filipino workers in Taiwan adds a humanitarian crisis to the mix. A conflict could overwhelm the country with refugees and economic shocks. Every decision carries long-term consequences for national stability. The Philippines is gambling with its future in a dangerous game. Manila is walking a diplomatic tightrope, seeking security with the U.S. For decades, the Philippines has relied on its historic alliance with Washington, drawing on military support and security guarantees to deter external threats. Joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, and defense agreements have all reinforced this partnership, especially as regional tensions rise. Yet at the same time, Manila is careful to preserve vital ties with China, its largest trading partner and a key player in the region's economic landscape. Chinese investments, infrastructure projects, and booming trade have become essential to the Philippine economy, making the relationship with Beijing both lucrative and delicate. President Marcos Jr. promises to be a friend to all, enemy to none, echoing a vision of balanced diplomacy. He seeks to reassure both allies and rivals that the Philippines will not be forced to choose sides, but will instead pursue its own national interests. But the reality is far more complex. Every decision is scrutinized at home and abroad, and the stakes are high. The government faces pressure from the public to defend national sovereignty, especially in the contested South China Sea, while also avoiding actions that could escalate into open conflict. The Philippines is modernizing its military and deepening alliances, signaling resolve to Beijing. New defense pacts, upgraded equipment, and increased joint drills with the US and other partners send a clear message. Manila is prepared to defend its interests. At the same time, Manila maintains robust economic engagement with China. Trade delegations, business forums, and investment deals continue, reflecting the pragmatic need to keep economic channels open even as political tensions simmer. The government reaffirms the One China policy, balancing its diplomatic commitments. The challenge is clear: defend sovereignty and national interests without provoking disaster or jeopardizing economic growth. As a frontline state, Manila's choices will shape regional security. Its actions are closely watched by neighbors and major powers alike, as the Philippines sits at the crossroads of great power competition in the Indo-Pacific. Success could offer a model for Southeast Asia, showing how small and medium states can assert their autonomy, protect their interests, and maintain peace amid rivalry between giants. But failure could trigger wider instability, drawing the region into conflict or economic turmoil. The test for Manila is to maintain autonomy, honor alliances, and avoid catastrophe, all while navigating intense external pressures. The stakes are nothing less than peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The outcome will influence not just the Philippines but the entire region's future. The world is watching how Manila navigates this perilous path, as its choices today will echo across the region for years to come.